already. I don't know, and it didn't start. Okay, it is recording now. Thank you so much. Okay, so looking at IELTS essay topics with answers is a great way to help you prepare for this test. So here is a web page. I don't know if you knew about it. I guess you have because we use it pretty much in these encounters as the references for the classes. So I'm going to send the link of the specific web page for the sample essays. So let's take a look, just some minutes. Let's take a look at it. In that web page, you can find a lot of advertisements, but also some sample essays and a variety of common topics that appears in these writing exams because they are not always the same topics. Some of the questions they are going to meet to ask you to answer in the essay you are going to write are related to an opinion or more than one opinion that you have to discuss. So in some cases, you have to agree or disagree with that opinion. In some cases, you have to discuss two opinions. In another one, you have to talk about the causes of something or the reasons of something, an issue. In some cases, you have to talk about the problem and give solutions, discuss advantages and disadvantages. And there are other types that don't easily fit like in one of these types of questions. So they are classified as other types. So you'll find not only sample questions, but also some model of answers that you can use to practice. Yeah. Do you have a question? Okay, welcome, Viviana. Okay, thank you, Maria Jose. So,
Thank you,
look,
teacher.
okay. So here is the model essay. They give you a task card like this one, and they give you 40 minutes to do the task. And here's the explanation of the topic, of the opinion you have to talk about, and the question. Okay. To what extent do you agree with this view? They give you like more specific instructions on what you have to include and the content, the specific content of the essay, the amount of words. Okay, so yeah, that is, and you'll find some sample model answers for this type of questions. So yeah, I recommend you to check that web page. But today we are going to focus on studying a specific strategy for writing a clear and concise essay, and it is a pretty useful and widely used model that is called the 5-paragraph essay. Have you heard about it before? Okay, so the 5-paragraph essay is a classic format for compositions of essays. Okay. It is not, obviously it is not the only format that exists, but it is a useful model for you to keep in mind, especially if you feel like you don't really know how to compose a text, and if you are beginning to develop your composition skills in English, is really useful. Okay, so this standard 5-paragraph format shows us 3 parts of the essay: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. The introductions has 1 paragraph. The body has 3 paragraphs and the conclusion is just 1 paragraph again. So to give a total amount of 5 paragraphs. Okay, so we are going to study step by step is how to write or what to include in each one of these paragraphs when you are doing the task 2, because you know, if this is an easy outline to follow, when you have like that strict time to do it. So do you have any questions so far?
Nope. Nope.
Okay, so let's go and talk about the introduction. So the introductory paragraph is just one. It should get the reader's interest so that he or she will want to read more. So you will want to maybe use a common, I forgot the word, a phrase, I don't know, or a quotation, maybe something said by a famous person, something that catches the attention of the reader, and make him want to keep reading more into the text. So the second thing is that it should include, this is the most important part of the introduction, is that it includes a clear explanation of what the writing is going to be about. And this explanation doesn't have to be so long, okay? It has to be a mini outline. And that is what we call the thesis statement, okay? The thesis statement is just a sentence that tells the reader what the essay is about. And moving on, the last sentence. So this introductory paragraph should have at least 3 sentences. The first one to catch the attention of the reader and to lead into the topic of the essay. And the second one, the thesis statement, the mini outline of the paper. And the third one, the last sentence of the paragraph, must contain a transitional hook. Okay, you know what is a hook?
No, what is it?
Do you know what is a fishing rod?
Oh, yeah.
A fishing rod, okay, is that one thing that you use to drag the fish out of the water. In Spanish
Oh,
will
okay.
be gancho, right?
Yeah.
Or how do you call it in the fishing rod? Yeah, the hook. I don't remember the name in Spanish. Sorry. Um, is my toxic brain. But okay, in the introduction we have this example here. Um, this example here. Who wants to help me reading it?
Teacher, I start with the Stephen King or the introductory paragraph.
Stephen King. The introduction is
Oh,
one that is between the white square. Okay, just this part.
okay. Stephen King, creator of such stories as Carrie and The Pet Cemetery, stated that the Edgar Allan Poe stories he read as a child gave him the inspiration and instruction he needed to become the writer that he is. Poe, as does Stephen King, fills the reader's imagination with the images that he wishes the reader to see, hear, and feel. His use of vivid, concrete visual imagery to present both static and dynamic settings and to describe people is part of his technique. Poe's short story, The Telltale Heart, is a story about a young man who kills an old man who cares for him, dismembers the corpse, then goes mad when he thinks he hears the old man's heart beating beneath the floorboards under his feet as he sits and discusses the old man's absence with the police. In The Telltale Heart, a careful reader can observe Poe's skillful manipulation of the senses. Teacher, um,
Yes.
What is the meaning
Answer.
of
Yeah.
eh, ben, beneath? I think
Beneath.
the beneath.
Beneath is under, under. Under, but also between something. Okay, for example, have you heard that phrase that says like beneath the skin? You know,
Ah, okay, okay,
it's
okay.
like inside your skin, right? But it's under the skin and also between your skin.
I understand, I understand.
Okay.
Like como una semilla debajo del suelo, algo así.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, beneath the ground. You could say that too, I guess. Yes, you were asking in the chat, Camila, if something like a famous sentence. Look, the example here is you can use something that many people knows or many people had heard, right? Um, for example, in this introduction, the author of the essay is using a phrase from Stephen King. You know, Stephen King is an author that many people knows. Okay, and he says Stephen King, creator of such stories as Carrie and Pet Cemetery. So if people don't know Stephen King, maybe they know his stories. So he is like trying to interest people that already know Stephen King, that probably is going to be so much people, to keep reading the text. Okay, so if you're interested in knowing about Stephen King, if you're interested in knowing about this story, if you like them, you may probably want to keep reading this essay. Okay, so as he stated that Edgar Allan Poe stories he read as a child gave him the inspiration and instruction. So he creates these relationships. He makes an allegation to the relationship between Stephen King and Edgar Allan Poe to continue introducing the reader to the topic of this essay. Okay, so the second sentence that we saw here includes a leading up to the thesis statement, which is the third sentence. His use of vivid, concrete visual imagery to present both static and dynamic settings and to describe people is part of his technique. So, by this thesis, what is the topic of the essay? What do you think it is? Just say what you think. Don't feel pressure.
Maybe about Stephen King life.
Mm, it could seem like it, but it's not. Okay, look, Poe, as does Stephen King, fills the reader's imagination with the images that he
Oh,
wishes the reader to see, hear, and feel. So he is using the relationship like the that has Stephen King with Edgar Allan Poe to introduce the public or the readers to the topic. And the topic will be the technique of Edgar Allan Poe. Because as you said, Stephen King has stated that Edgar Allan Poe was his inspiration. His stories was were like an inspiration and instruction to become the writer that he is. So he is introducing the people to Edgar Allan Poe first. Who is him? We already know that it's like a pretty old author or past author that was an inspiration to Stephen King, someone that we already know. And then he starts talking about the use of vivid, concrete visual imagery to present both static and dynamic settings to describe people is part of his technique. Whose technique? The technique of Poe. Okay, He continues, Poe's short story, The Telltale Heart, is a story about a young man who kills an old man who cares for him. And it is a story of Poe, as we saw. So the topic is the technique of Poe, the use of visual imagery that he has. And the mini outline, the he not only presents the topic here, because it says it fills the reader's imagination with the images he uses, but also he gives a mini outline in the third sentence that becomes the thesis statement, because it provides like a guide into the text, what you're going to find in the text, what we are going to talk about, what are you going to see here. The mini outline tells the reader that this paper will present Poe's use of imagery in 3 places in his writing. First, the description of a static setting. 2, the description of dynamic setting. And 3, the description of a person. How does he say that? To present both the static and dynamic settings and to describe people is part of his technique. And that is it. Okay. Now in the sentence 4, he uses an example. He says that he's going to use an example or some examples from the story that he wrote, The Telltale Heart, to explain his point, to explain how, or to show the readers how he used this technique. And at the end, in the last sentence, he uses the words manipulation and senses to create the hook that we talk about. So you are going to notice that in this structure, in this like outline to make an essay, you have, or you can use, it's pretty useful when you make a sentence that drags the reader to the next paragraph. Okay, at the end of the paragraph, you can use a sentence and some words to make this transitional hook into the next paragraph. We are going to see the example. Remember those words, manipulation and senses, so you can notice how the author of this essay used it. Okay, it's clear? Do you have doubts, questions?
No, now it's really clear. Thank you. I was confused.
Okay. Okay, so next, once we have already done the introduction of our essay, we can go into the body of the text. So the first paragraph of the body, because you remember the body has 3 paragraphs, should contain the strongest argument, the most significant example, the clearest illustration, and an obvious beginning point. Okay, the beginning point of the topic. The first sentence of this paragraph should include the reverse hook, using maybe the same words, not in the same order, but using the same words of the last sentence of the previous paragraph. That ties the transitional hook at the end of the introductory paragraph. So the topic for this paragraph should be in the first or second sentence. Okay, you don't always have to write a long paragraph. You can use only 3 sentences. As you can see here, the first sentence should include this transitional hook, the reverse hook of the last one we use. The topic of the paragraph, you can use a second sentence to include it. And third, the last sentence should include a transitional hook to tie into the second paragraph. So what other sentences could you include here? Your arguments, okay? Before you have stated the topic, that this topic should be related to the thesis statement, you can explain, you can give some ideas to support your statement. Okay, so that is it. Let's look at an example on how we can do that. Maria Jose, could you please help me reading this paragraph here?
Yeah. Yes, teacher, sure. I'm just going to zoom it. Okay, now. First paragraph. The sense of sight, the primary sense, is particularly susceptible to manipulation. In The Telltale Heart, Poe uses the following image to describe a static scene. His room was as black as pitch with the thick darkness. Poe used the words black, pitch, and thick darkness not only to show the reader the condition of the old man's room, but also to make the reader feel the darkness. Thick is a word that is not usually associated with color, darkness, yet in using it, Poe stimulates the reader's sense of feeling as well as his sense of sight.
Yes, thank you. So you remember sense and manipulation. He used those words to lead into the topic of this paragraph. So he is going to explain now how Paul uses this sense of sight, yeah, to manipulate the reader, the senses of the reader. So in the Telltale Heart, Paul uses the following image to describe a static scene. Now here is the topic, the static scene. You remember that it was in the thesis statement? Is the first part of the thesis statement, is the first thing he is going to explain or to discuss to support his his main idea. So he uses a quotation from the story in this second sentence to support the idea. Okay, so he said that the words black, pitch, and thick darkness not only show the reader the condition of the old man's room, but also to make the reader feel the darkness of the place. So just by a description of the side of the character that the character is having in the story, he makes the reader go into the darkness of the scene. Okay, it's an static scene. Nobody is doing nothing. Practically, there is nothing happening. Nothing more than the main character looking at the place, right? And he's describing it. Then the last sentence of the paragraph uses the expression of sense of feeling and sense of sight as hooks for leading into the third paragraph. So remember those words, sense of feeling and sense of sight. Was that clear? Could you see the example of how to make the first paragraph of the body?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. So let's go. So for the second paragraph, we should include the second strongest argument. Okay, so this structure follows this order. The paragraphs should be ordered in that way, showing the strongest to the weakest one. So this paragraph should include the second most significant example, the second clearest illustration, or an obvious follow-up of the first paragraph in the body. So the first sentence includes again the reverse hook of the last sentence in the previous paragraph. And the topic for this one should be again in the first or the second sentence. This topic should relate again to the thesis statement in the introductory paragraph. So you saw that the thesis statement of this essay has three parts. Okay, the first one, the static setting description, the second one, the dynamic setting description, and the third one is the description of a person. So what is recommended that if you have three arguments to discuss your main idea, your main topic, that in this case, if we remember, is the imagery, the use of imagery that Paul did, sorry, to drag the reader into the story. So if you have three arguments to support that idea, you are going to use one paragraph per argument, okay? One paragraph per argument. So the second paragraph will include the dynamic description. Okay, let's look at this sample. Who wants to read? Viviana, are you there?
Excuse
Yes.
me, I
Yes.
in the smartphone because my computer is breakdown, but I try to read the better possible.
Okay.
Okay.
Is the letter so small? Is really small?
Um, no, this is this is good, teacher.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Body third paragraph. The third paragraph of the body should be contain the argument. Um, I don't
Weakest.
know. I don't.
Weakest.
Okay.
You know, weak. Do you know the meaning of weak?
Okay.
Yes or no?
Give me a moment. Okay, okay. The third paragraph of the body should contain the waiter's argument. Way, wake
Weak.
example. Wake. Yes.
Weakest. Weakest. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Weakest.
Mm-hmm.
Weakest illustration and an obvious follow the second paragraph in the body. The first sentence of this paragraph should include the reserved hope, which ties in which transnational hawk at the end of the second paragraph.
Viviana, sorry. Viviana,
Yes.
I moved the presentation and I didn't realize. I'm so sorry. I'm really so sorry. This was the example that I was asking you to read. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Di- Didn't anyone notice that?
No, my bad.
Sorry. I was like, oh, okay, okay. Stop. What is happening?
Don't worry, teacher.
I'm sorry, Viviana. Could you please read the paragraph again?
Of course.
Sorry to bother
Okay.
you.
Don't worry, teacher. Okay. Further on the story.
Yeah.
Poe used a couple of words that cross not only the sense of sight but also the sense of feeling to describe a dynamic accent. The joke in the story has been standing in the open doorway of the old man's room for a long time, waiting for just the right moment and reveal himself to the old man in order to frighten him. Paul writes, so I opened it later opening. You cannot imagine how still stillly stillly until at length and single din rate. Like the treat at the spider hot front of the creative and feel food upon the vulture eye. By using the metaphor of the dread of the spider, which we all know is a creepy creature, and the word should. Paul almost makes the reader gasp, and surely the whole man was and blind the young man described as the vulture eye.
Yes, thank you, Viviana. So, as we saw, the first sentence of this paragraph uses the words sense of sight and sense of feeling that we saw at the end of the previous one. Okay, sense of sight, sense of feeling. Notice that in this one, the sense of feeling is mentioned first, and the sense of sight is mentioned next. But in this one, the sense of sight is mentioned first and the sense of feeling at the end. So the first sentence includes the topic for this paragraph because it's the imagery in a dynamic in a dynamic setting. Because the author of this essay wants to drag the reader into the sense of feeling because of the dynamic scene, what is happening there, and how could the reader feel if he was there, he or she was there. So he explains, he uses again quotations from the story to explain his point, giving some ideas on how to on how Paul uses this imagery. Okay, so at the end, oh my God, I'm sorry, it's my mouse that is it's making me struggle with the presentation. So by using the metaphor in the sentence 4 of the thread of the spider, which we all know is a creepy um, creature is the right way, and the word shot, Poe almost makes the reader gasp, and surely did the old man whose one blind eye the young man describes as the vulture eye. So he is now in the second and third sentence explaining his point for this one, because the topic of the paragraph he already gave it in the first sentence. Describe a dynamic scene. So this is the topic, and then he explained how Paul described the dynamic scene, and finally, at the end, he uses the words one blind eye to drag the reader of this essay to move on to the description, the physical description of a person. So this is the last, you remember, the last point of the thesis. So it hooks to the next paragraph. That is the third one. So in this third paragraph, the body should contain the weakest argument, the weakest example, the weakest illustration, and an obvious follow-up to this second paragraph of the body. So the first sentence of this paragraph should include the reverse hook, which ties with the transitional hook. Okay, at the end of this paragraph, it's not so important to include a transitional hook. It's useful, it is, because it will help you to start the conclusion, yeah, the conclusion paragraph, but it is not so important because once we enter into the conclusion, we are going to summarize the whole text. Okay, so we are not going to really need it, but if you are a beginner, and you don't really know, don't have like a clear idea on how to write an essay or a conclusion, you can use again this hook, include a hook to conclude your text. So it gives you an idea on how to start a sentence for the conclusion. Okay, the topic of this third paragraph should be included in the first or second sentence again, and it should relate to the thesis statement. So we are going to see that the author of the essay is going to include the description of the person that was in the thesis. So who's left? Juliet, I think. Juliet, are you there?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, Juliet, please help me reading this paragraph.
The reader does not know, sorry, the reader does not know much about what the old man's story looks like, except that he has only blind eye. In the second paragraph of the Telltale Heart, Poe establishes the young man's obsession with the blind eye when he writes. He had the eye of the vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. The vulture eye is evoked over and over again in the story until the reader becomes at upset when it attacks the young man. his, his use of the vivid concrete word vulture establishes a specific images in the mind of the reader that is inescapable.
Yes, okay. So in this first sentence of the fourth paragraph, um, he is using again one blind eye, making a reference to the previous paragraph, And this first sentence also lets the reader know what this paragraph will do. That is the description of people, you know. The reader does not know much about what the old man in this story looks like, except that he has one blind eye. Oh my god. Sorry. Okay, so um, in this case, once again, Poe is quoted and discussed. Okay, he's again quoting. You know, it's difficult because we are going to have like only 40 minutes to do the writing exam, um, or to write the essay, because you are going to discuss the essay
Teacher,
after
sorry, how much time do we have? How much time do we have?
40 minutes to write the essay.
Okay.
Yes. And you have like I guess like 50 minutes to discuss it speaking, right? That is like the time they give you. But you know, it's difficult sometimes. We research a lot when we want to give arguments or to support the ideas of an essay, right? We won't have much time to do a research, and I don't even know if they are going to give us the opportunity to research something on our cell phones. I don't know. I don't think so. But what can you do using like universal facts? Okay, you can use facts to support your ideas. Okay, yesterday we were talking about in one of these sessions about the practice that is at the end of this. Okay, we don't have much time to practice, but we discussed the topic of a sample, and it
Teacher,
was the use of
I have a
internet.
question.
Okay, tell me.
You said we have like 40 minutes to make the essay, but like what if we, I mean, if we don't know too much about that topic, though, like how can we deal with that situation? For example, if they if we have to write about any writer, any American writer, I have no idea. Like what can I do there?
Well, okay, I don't think they will put you on writing about a specific person. I don't think so. They will make you write like about general topics or academical topics. Okay, so
Oh,
those
okay.
are most commonly known things. Yeah, because I guess they know. I guess they know that nobody is interested uh, in like reading a whole history or a whole culture book to get prepared to a single writing test, right? Um, I think they already know it, but
Okay.
yeah, you could find general topics uh, about it could be about daily life, about maybe internet, things that are very familiar to everyone in the general test, and in the academic test you will find things about academic settings. So that is why you have to decide which one of the tests you're going to make to get prepared for it. Okay, yeah, so it's not really that is scary, you know. The most scary thing is to don't know how to start an essay. So that is why in these CEPTO preparations we talk about it. Okay. So here is a really useful structure you can use. It's very easy, you know. This example that we're using today, I don't think they will ask you to write something like this. I don't think. But it's a pretty useful because it is a clear example of how to write that essay using the 5 paragraph structure. Okay, that
Oh,
is
okay.
what we're talking about it today. So
Okay.
don't worry, don't worry, don't. Yeah. Um, so okay, the last thing to say about this paragraph is that he makes again a hook into the last paragraph. And as I told you, it is less important that this paragraph has a hook because the last paragraph is going to include a summary of the body of the paper. And we are going to see it right now. Look at the conclusion. the concluding paragraph. It says, thick darkness, thread of the spider, and bolter eye are three images that Poe used in the Theater Heart to stimulate a reader's senses. So as you can see, thick darkness, thread of the spider, and bolter eye are like the principal or main words used in the quotations in each paragraph. Okay, thick darkness for the static setting description, the thread of the spider for the dynamic setting description, and the bolter eye for the people description. So it's like making a summarize with keywords from the paragraph. You don't have to include like the a summary of each information you gave in each paragraph. No, just use, and that's why this structure is so useful, because it's quickly to make. Okay, it's to think quickly about the main ideas of each paragraph. You can use keywords, and this summarizes those three paragraphs. So continuing with the second sentence, the conclusion says, Poe wanted the reader to see and feel real life. So now he's giving an opinion, like a personal observation of what does this mean, what he wanted to explain through the whole essay. This is a way in the conclusion to give your personal opinion, because if you give your personal opinion, if you don't use facts in the previous paragraphs, you are going to give like more arguments to support your personal opinion. So it's better to give your personal opinion at the end in the concluding paragraph. So the third sentence is, he used concrete imagery rather than vague abstract words to describe settings and people. Okay, so the second and third sentences of this conclusion provide observations which can also be considered a summary, not only if the content of the paper, but also offers personal opinion, which was logically drawn as the result of this study. So your personal opinion can be a result of the whole idea. If Edgar Allan Poe, in the sentence 4, was one of Stephen King's teachers, then readers of King owe a debt of gratitude to that 19th century creator, sorry, of horror stories. So the last sentence returns to Edgar Allan Poe and Stephen King relationship, which began this paper. The sentence also provides a wrap up and gives the paper a sense of finality. Okay, so look at the four main aspects of the concluding paragraph. First is an allusion to the pattern used in the introductory paragraph. You saw that the author used keywords to make this allusion. Second, a restatement of the thesis statement. How was that? His personal opinion made a restatement, okay? Poe wanted the reader to see and feel real life. He used concrete imagery rather than vague abstract words to describe settings and people. The sentence tree, is summarizing the whole thesis, including the personal opinion of the author of the essay. So it shouldn't be a duplicate thesis statement. Don't use the same words, but try to give your personal opinion echoing the original language of the thesis. The third thing to follow is a summary of the three main points from the body of the paper. You can mix like the second and third point between one sentence. You don't need like using too much sentences to do that. As you can see, this conclusion is pretty short. And for a final statement that gives the reader signals that the discussion has come to an end. Sometimes this final statement is a call to action. How is that? A call to action, maybe if you are asked to make an essay about the environment, taking care of the environment, maybe an issue, a social issue, something like that. Maybe you want to make a call of action. Um, like give a suggestion of what the reader can do before after knowing the information that you have gave him in the text. So in this case, the call to action that the author is making is that the readers of Stephen King should have a depth of gratitude to Edgar Allan Poe because he was a really huge inspiration to Stephen King's stories. Okay, so yeah, that's all about the structure of the 5 paragraph essay. Do you have any questions, any doubts, something you want to add, or something you want to observe about the this structure that we have talked about today?
No,
You can
teacher,
take your time to
really,
think.
really, you really useful again. Today I could understand more things about it. Thank you so much.
uh, okay, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I was about to mention
What
something
about
like that. I have no idea of the CEPTO exam, so I really learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
Okay, I'm glad. I was really worried when I was preparing this class because you know they give us like the specific topics for each session, and and we have to prepare with the resources they gave us. I'm going to show you the reference of it. I can share it with you if you want to review it later. But again, I was worried because it's so much information, but it's really useful, you know. Um, After all, even when you're reading next time you're reading an essay, you can try to follow, to find, try to find the pattern, okay, to catch the main ideas and the main arguments, you know, because this 5 paragraph structure is widely used, really commonly used. So here is the practice. I know we don't have much time, but I want you to read this chart. This chart. Anyways, I'm going to send a screenshot of it through the chat so you can have it, and try to make a storm ideas or a brainstorm about how could you make a thesis. What will be your opinion uh, for making an essay about this topic? Okay, so the topic says, according to a recent study, the more time people use the internet, the less time they spend with real human beings. Some people say that instead of seeing the internet as a way of opening up new communication possibilities worldwide, we should be concerned about the effect this is having on social interaction. How far do you agree with this opinion? If you want, you can give me an answer now, just to have like an storm of ideas.
I think it's. I mean, I agree with the statement. Because lately we feel more connected to internet and somehow unreal things, unreal situations, and unreal lifestyles instead of like being aware and being grateful for what we have and what we have achieved. Because social media tends to be like really toxic lately.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Manje. So, yeah, you know, this type of questions, um, when they ask you, do you agree with this opinion? How far do you agree? They will expect you to answer if you agree in a 100%, if you agree in like in half and half. Maybe you would say, yes, I agree, but I also think that internet is useful because of this, because of that. And then we can I don't know, provide a solution by doing this or that. Okay. Or if you agree in a 0% with this opinion. Okay. So that is how you can answer one of these questions. And maybe providing facts as arguments. For example, yesterday there was a girl telling us, I don't remember if it was Juliet, was it you, Juliet, that told us that one example that she could use is that when families sit together for dinner, they join for dinner, everyone is in their cell phone, you know, everyone is in their cell phone and nobody is talking face to face. And that is a good example on how you can support the idea, your opinion, okay, in this kind of essays.
Yes,
So
yes, teacher, it was me. Yes.
so does anybody else has something to add? Have, sorry.
Hay tomate, tomate, cocina y tomate, tomate, cebolla, pimentón, cebollita y tomate, tomate,
Oh my
tomate,
gosh.
tomate.
This is the hour for street sellers. We cannot really complain because I love that they pass in front of my door. So nobody else?
Teacher, regarding the opinion, there are ideas about the essay, the thesis, the thesis.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for example, a good idea for uh, powder the topic is the transformation of the education through the technology. They use the internet because it is a right. Every every everything, every one person in the world, yes, and it's possible. The internet is only a medium of entertainment. The internet offers different news for education, for example, try the practice workout, for example. Um, Limit the internet unique use is on poor way of try the family they use the internet, no, is my opinion.
Yes, I agree with you, Viviana. Thank you. This is a good idea. Yes, and just by giving it a thought, you can you can come up with a good idea for making a thesis statement. The questions for this type of test is going to be like this one, not not so complicated as you imagine it. Maybe in the academic test, it could be a little bit more difficult because they discuss like those topics of education, maybe social issues, things like that. But it's not really that difficult. Okay. So thank you very much, girls, for attending and participating today. If anyone else has something to say, this is the time. This is the time for you to do it.
No, teacher, thanks a lot. I
Thank you.
think
Thank you
today is
so
the
much.
last. Oh, sorry, Maria Jose. I think today is the last time. Or
Yes,
at
it's
least at this
officially the
semester.
last step.
Yes, but thanks a lot for everything, as I told you yesterday. Yes, God bless you,
Oh,
and yes,
yes,
thank
I feel so touched because yeah, plenty of you accompanied me through this process. As I told you, this was my first time being a tutor in the community, and I'm really grateful for that. So yeah, yeah, Maria Jose, what were you going to say?
Oh no, I was just going to say thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you as well. Okay, girls, so we are ending the recording now.